It's all happening at the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store, and you can go there right now at the-politicrat.myshopify.com. Lots of good new items, brand new, designed by yours truly. So please head to the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store now. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Saturday, March the 13th, 2021. On this edition of the Politicrat.
Breonna loves life, and she loved to help people, and she loved a family. She didn't deserve what they did to her.
Tamika Palmer is Breonna Taylor's mother. The 26-year-old was an EMT working in emergency rooms at 2 hospitals and helping respond to the coronavirus outbreak.
I was more concerned with her washing her hands than dying at home.
But just after midnight on March 13th, police shot Taylor at least 8 times, killing her in the apartment she shared with her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker.
Officers knocked on the door several times and announced their presence as police who were there with a search warrant. The officers forced entry into the exterior door and were immediately met by gunfire.
Louisville Metro police say the officers were part of a narcotics investigation and opened fire after Walker shot first. They're now on administrative reassignment pending the results of an internal investigation. The lawsuit against the officers claims the suspect they were searching for was already in custody. Taylor's family alleges the officers wearing plain clothes did not identify themselves and that Walker, a registered gun owner, was shooting at men he believed were breaking in. Walker is now charged with first-degree assault and attempted murder of a police officer.
They thought they were being burglarized. Does the Second Amendment not apply to African Americans?
Attorney Ben Crump joined Breonna Taylor's case this week. He is also representing the family of Ahmaud Arbery, who was shot dead in February while on a run in his Georgia neighborhood.
This was a completely unnecessary and justifiable killing of an innocent woman.
For CBS This Morning, Jerika Duncan.
Breonna Taylor. 1 year later.
Look at the protests happening right now in Louisville, Kentucky, where demonstrators outraged over the grand jury's decision in the case of Breonna Taylor. Only one of the police officers involved in the deadly shooting will face any criminal charges. This video from earlier today shows confrontations between police and protesters ahead of Louisville's 9 p.m. curfew. Some people were seen throwing water and rocks at the officers. Police have made several arrests. Former officer Brett Hankinson was indicted on 3 counts of wanton endangerment for gunshots that went into a neighboring apartment the night of the shooting. Reporter Daryl Forges is in Louisville with reaction to the grand jury's decision.
After months of mounting pressure,
no justice, no peace.
A grand jury has announced 3 charges of wanton endangerment against Brett Hankinson, one of the officers involved in the March shooting death of Breonna Taylor.
The grand jury voted to return an indictment against Detective Hankinson for 3 counts of wanton endangerment for wantonly placing the 3 individuals in apartment 3 in danger of serious physical injury or death. The charge of wanton endangerment in the first degree is a Class D felony, and if found guilty, the accused can serve up to 5 years for each count.
Hankinson, fired from the force in June, is one of the 3 officers investigated by the Attorney General, but is the only officer who has been indicted by a grand jury. For those fighting for justice, these charges may not be enough. The decision comes on the heels of a historic wrongful death lawsuit settlement. The city of Louisville agreeing to both pay $12 million to the family of Breonna Taylor and institute sweeping police reforms.
It is landmark in its scope.
The 26-year-old EMT and aspiring nurse was killed back on March 13th when Louisville Metro police executed a late-night warrant in a narcotics investigation. Taylor's death at the hands of police adding to the resounding calls for justice and accountability. Taylor's mother vows to fight until justice is done for her daughter.
I'll fight to the death of me for her.
Welcome back. That was a report. That second report you heard was from September of 2020. That was the report that occurred after the Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron held a press conference to announce that there were no charges in the execution of Breonna Taylor, and that the only charges in any kind of indictment would be on the officer who really was the one that killed her, Brett Hankerson, for shooting into the apartment next door to Breonna Taylor. This was, of course, an insult to injury for the family of Breonna Taylor, Tamika Palmer, her mother, whom you heard in that report. You also heard her in the first report. We didn't find out about the execution of Breonna Taylor by 3 police officers in Louisville, Kentucky, that occurred exactly 1 year ago today. We didn't find that information out until 2 months later. It took at least 2 months for most, if not all, of the United States to learn of the news. That news did not get made public on any kind of national scale until almost or just about 2 months after it happened in 2020. This is the real situation that we are dealing with in this country. Breonna Taylor should still be here with us on this earth today. Breonna Taylor was just 26 years old. It doesn't matter whether she was 36, 46, 56, 66, 76, or 106. If you cannot be safe in your home, where are you safe? Where are you safe? I talked about Sarah Everard over the last 2 episodes. And in addition to Sarah Everard, I talked about women in general, all kinds of women. I talked about black women, white women, Asian women, Native women, Latinas. I talked about trans women and all other kinds of women. Breonna Taylor should still be here. Breonna Taylor was lying in her bed, and it was at just after midnight or 1 a.m. or thereabouts, whenever it was very early in the morning of March the 13th, 2020, that police, Louisville Metro Police in Louisville, Kentucky, enacted and performed what is known as a no-knock warrant. No-knock warrants are odious. And what they do in a shorthand way is allow police to essentially knock down your door and break in to your home and arrest, or, as you know now, execute people who are sleeping, people who are minding their own business, people who are in their homes. There have been so many incidents like this where black people, black women, have been shot inside their homes and killed by police. If you aren't safe at home as a black woman, where are you safe? Where are you safe? I can immediately, over the last 2 years or so, think of a few people, a few black women who were shot dead by police, either inside their home or right in front of their front door or at their front door of their homes. Shot and killed by police. I think of a Tatiana Jefferson. I think of Charlena Lyles. It's really difficult to sit here and do these podcasts, but it's not nearly as difficult as it is for the families who lose their daughter, their sister, their mother, their aunt, their grandmother, their cousin, their wife, their girlfriend, their partner. It's really difficult because you know that you have to do something about this. Breonna Taylor was 26. 26. We didn't find out about her being killed until about 2 months later. And again, I say that again, because this is about institutions. This is about systems. This is what I've been saying the last 2 episodes regarding Sarah Everard and violence against women overall. This is about institutions and patriarchy, and it's about male dominance, and it's about white male, straight male power, violence. Why is it that we're not hearing about her, Breonna Taylor that is, until nearly 2 months later? What else are we not hearing about? What other things are going on in this country or any other country in regards to violence against women and state executions of women in their own homes who are just minding their business, who are sleeping, that we have not yet learned about? Tamika Palmer is the mother of Breonna Taylor. And you should follow her on social media. One of the places that she can be found is on Instagram. Tamika Palmer has never stopped fighting. As you heard in that report, that last report, she is going to fight for the rest of her life to achieve justice for her daughter. I want you to, if you are an Instagram person, meaning if you have an Instagram account, not whether you like Instagram or you don't, versus any other social media platform. What I would like you to do is follow Tamika Palmer on Instagram, and I will spell her name and I'll spell out her whole Instagram handle where you can actually follow her and support her. Give her some support, particularly on this day. This is an extremely difficult day for Tamika Palmer and her family and the rest of the family of Breonna Taylor. Please go to Instagram and follow Tamika Palmer at TA Amazon Michael I, K as in kick, A as in apple, L as in love, P as in Paul, A, L as in leap, M as in mission, E as in Edward, R as in rich. Tamika L. Palmer. And you must follow her, please, on Instagram. She may well be on Twitter and any other social media accounts, but follow her on Instagram and please give her a message today. Send her a message of love and support. Tell her that that you are going to keep saying Breonna Taylor's name, that you're going to support her fight for justice, and you're going to talk about Breonna Taylor and educate people about the kind of person Breonna Taylor was. I think that Tamika Palmer would really welcome that today. A bit of love and support for her. It's got to be one of the most difficult days for Tamika Palmer and her family, especially this day, because exactly 1 year ago today, her baby's life was taken from her in such a violent, brutal way, and it was taken from her at the hands of the state of Kentucky. That's what is so evil about all of this, is that this was a state-sanctioned execution. And in my view, there is no difference between putting someone in the electric chair and ending their lives. From doing what these police officers did exactly a year ago today in their execution over 30 32 shots fired into the apartment where Breonna Taylor, where she was sleeping. It's her apartment. 32 play. It was like, I think it was 36 shots into her home after midnight, 1 a.m. or so, in Louisville, in Kentucky, in the United States of America, on March the 13th, 2020. If you don't think that that was a state-sanctioned execution with a black district attorney or a black attorney general of the state of Kentucky, Daniel Cameron, who, by the way, has ties to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. He's married to Mitch McConnell's daughter. And he is a supporter of the guy who left the White House a few months ago. And he is a Republican. And he spoke at the Republican National Convention just a few months ago, back in August of 2020. That's the same guy, the same Kentucky Attorney General, who announced, as you may have heard in that second report, that there would not be any charges and that there would be only charges against Brett Hankison for firing into the apartment next door to Breonna Taylor's. That's an insult, and a deliberate insult to Tamika Palmer and to the other members of the family of Breonna Taylor. What we have to do is keep upholding the name of Breonna Taylor, to keep saying her name, but also to write letters to Louisville and the city there. And I know there have been some changes. There was a settlement of a lawsuit, the civil lawsuit, wrongful death lawsuit, which you heard about in that report as well. It was $12 million of a settlement. But no money is going to bring back Breonna Taylor. And what we have to do is continue to stand up for her, to write letters, emails, tweets to Louisville city government. And I'm going to see if I'm definitely going to get the appropriate information. And I also want people to keep in mind that the Kentucky Attorney General's position is an elected position. It is not an appointed position, which means that Daniel Cameron is up for re-election as the Attorney General of Kentucky. And whenever that re-election is, whether it's next year or this year or the year after next or whenever it is, I want you to make sure that you do your part to support the person who runs against him. So it's going to be a Democratic candidate who will run against him. I want you to support that person. I want you to donate to that person. I want you to get their name out on blast in Kentucky. I want you to speak to people that you may know in the state of Kentucky. And even if you don't know someone in Kentucky, you probably follow someone on social media who is in Kentucky. Maybe their profile says that they are. But if you know someone in Kentucky, and even if you don't know someone in Kentucky, I really do want you to do this. Because it's one thing for me, for example, to sit here and talk about Breonna Taylor, which I must, and talk about her family, which I must, and talk about the fact that she was a person who hadn't even got anywhere near the prime of her life. Talk about the fact that she helped people, was an EMT specialist was working multiple shifts. And even if she was not an EMT specialist, not working multiple shifts, not doing anything, she's a human being. And she has the right to live. She has the right to sleep in her own bed at night without some murderers coming into her home, blasting their way in like Wyatt Earp, like gunfight at the OK Corral. Blasting into her home, shooting at least 30 odd times into her home, killing her. At least 8 of the bullets hit her, at least, if not more, at least 8, as she lay in her bed sleeping. This is so inhumane. You cannot call this the greatest country on earth when things like this are happening daily in this country. That requires some extreme sickness in any individual to claim that this country is the greatest country on earth when you don't have justice and when you indict a cop for shooting in the apartment next door, shooting into walls. So a wall is more important than a human being to the Kentucky Attorney General. That is what is going on here. It's this devaluation of a black female life by the state, by these police who are part of the state apparatus, by the black male Attorney General of the state of Kentucky. Now, I guarantee you that if the person killed, and they wouldn't have done this, but if the person killed had been Daniel Cameron's spouse, a white woman, the daughter of Mitch McConnell, Daniel Cameron, whether he would choose to recuse himself or not, assuming that he would have ever done that to begin with, would one way or another make sure that those officers, in this case, all 3 of them were white. Daniel Cameron would have made sure that all 3 of those officers would have been indicted on the spot for firing at least 30 rounds into the apartment or home where Daniel Cameron's wife was sleeping. You know that, and I know that. Breonna Taylor should still be here. There is no doubt about it. We must end violence against women, and we must end violence against black women as part of that group of women, because this is an inclusive situation. White women are victimized by violence. They are survivors of violence, I should say. Black women are survivors of violence. Native women are survivors of violence. And some never survive because they are murdered. They are killed. Every group of women, because inclusiveness is important, because this affects every woman. Every woman does not go to sleep and never wake up again because some police have shot their way into her home and blasted her with 30 rounds of ammunition at least, at least 8 of them hitting her. But every woman has experienced some level of violence by men. Some level of violence, whether it's physical, whether it's verbal, whether it's psychological. Every woman listening to my voice right now has experienced some level of violence at the hands of men, whether individually or collectively, whether it's societal or very individual and personal and deep. This is something that I am going to continue to talk about. I am going to continue to talk about not only the fact that Breonna Taylor has been murdered like this, murdered, and should still be here, or Charlena Lyles, or a Tatiana Jefferson, or a number of other women, Rakia Boyd, all shot dead by police. I'm going to keep talking about that, but I'm also going to talk about what we, what you, what I, what we all must do to put the maximum pressure on a system and bring it to its knees. Institutions of patriarchy and power and dominance must crumble, and we must put pressure on them so they do crumble. It's been a long, long fight, and that fight continues. What we must do is build a system that respects the humanity of Black women. We must build a system that respects the humanity of all women, of all people, all human beings. It is the only way forward. There is no question. That's what we must do. And we have to do that in whichever way that is feasible and is designed to bring change. We have to do this in a constructive but a very bold way. Storming the United States Capitol in a terrorist attack is not the way to do that. And that was white male patriarchy trying to break down the doors of a system set up by white male patriarchy. That was a real example of white on white violence, if you will. Never mind the fact that the US Capitol was actually built by Black people. Never mind that. We need a system that is going to respect the humanity of Black people. Because until we have a system that does that, we're going to keep seeing more Breonna Taylors, more Tatiana Jeffersons, more Charlena Lyles. We're going to continue to see this because the system as set up and as controlled and devised by white, straight men who have wealth and power will continue to do this. This system is not going to be changing unless we change it. That is the reality of all of this. And it's a reality that cannot be ignored. We must get up and speak up. We must speak out. We have to take this from social media and elevate it to making phone calls, elevate it to donating money to Tamika Palmer and her family, elevate it to spreading the word to people you know about Breonna Taylor, about this Attorney General in Kentucky who, in his infinite and infamous wisdom, and I put that word in quotes and sarcastically, decides to not indict two of these officers at all and indict only one of those officers, not for killing Breonna Taylor, but for shooting into the apartment next door. I believe only 5 bullets or so, only. I believe 5 bullets hit that apartment. A wall. And on top of that, I'm not so sure that those individuals in that apartment were even in the apartment. Not that they should have been. I'm not commenting on it. But I'm just telling you about how deliberately absurd and deliberately insulting this was. And sometimes the most crude and cowardly way to deliver a societal and institutionalized violent response, an indictment, not on the police, but on the deceased Breonna Taylor, is to get a black male Attorney General to do the system's bidding. I want everybody listening to me right now to send a message of love and support to Tamika Palmer. Please do that today. Please support Tamika Palmer's fight for justice and get involved. I know it's difficult. We've got a pandemic here, in case people didn't know. Some people have acted as if there is no pandemic. Some people are continuing to not wear masks. I mean, it's a minority of people, though. It's a loud minority. But the vast majority of people are doing the mask wearing. I want people to really get involved here. Send a message to Tamika Palmer saying that you support her, that you are sorry for her loss, and that you will keep supporting her fight for justice, and that you stand with her. Please do that today. If you're listening to this today, on March the 13th, 2021, or if you're listening to this on any day at all, no matter what day it is, please send a loving message of support to Tamika Palmer. Again, on Instagram, she is at T-A, M as in Mike, I as in Indigo, K as in Kick, A, L as in Love, P as in Paul, A as in Apple, L as in Life, M as in Mountain, E as in Excellent, R as in Return. Please send a message to Tamika Palmer. I don't know if she's on Twitter or not. I've not looked. But if she is, and you make sure that it is indeed her, please send her a message of support. She really would appreciate it. I know she would. I'm sure she would. And no mother should experience this. No parent should experience this. No father, no parent at all should experience this. And this is an extremely painful day for her. I want you to really lift up the memory of Breonna Taylor. I want you to do that today, please. It would mean a lot to me that you do it. But I'm telling you, it would mean so much more to Tamika Palmer if you did that. Because at the end of the day, she, as it is with so many people who have lost their children to the violence of these police, she is going to be fighting this fight when it comes down to it, just with her family, because they're the ones going through all of this directly. But if you send her some support, I'm sure she probably also has a page. Ask her, by the way. Ask her about whether or not she has a GoFundMe page. Because ask her if there is, because I wouldn't be going. I mean, you can search online and look for GoFundMe pages, but we know that some of these pages can be fraudulent, can be pages that are set up by somebody else. So if you do, and you want to send Tamika some monetary support, I think it would be a good idea to consult her and to just talk to her and ask her, okay, where can we send money for you? Where can I send money? Where can I help? Because this is what that family needs. This is what she needs right now. She needs your support. She needs your love. She needs to know that you care and that you have not forgotten Breonna Taylor and that you will lift up her name and her memory. She needs you to do that. I'm telling you. I'm watching her Instagram messages. I look at them and I want you to do the same, please. And I want you to get active. I mean, it might be for 5 minutes. What you need to do is get in touch. And again, I'm going to put this in the liner notes of this episode. You need to get in touch with the city of Kentucky, and I'll put the necessary information in for this. Granted, the city did settle. Louisville did settle with the family of Breonna Taylor last year for $12 million. There also is Breonna's Law, which is a piece of legislation that requires the end of no-knock warrants. There's no more no-knock warrants in the city of Louisville, and I believe also in the entire state of Kentucky. That has been done away with as a result of that $12 million settlement that was announced last year. That was, I believe, around August of last year, which is when the date of that second report. Both reports were from CBS News. And what I can tell you is that it was after that settlement, about a month later in September or thereabouts, that the indictments did not come. Surprise, surprise. And I can also tell you, in addition to that again, the Attorney General of the state is still where he is in Kentucky. And I can tell you that you can do something about that. You can, in the next election in Kentucky, whenever he chooses to run again, or whenever the election is, I should say, you have to get active and tell people in Kentucky, whether you do it online, on social media, or otherwise, that they've got to vote him out. And, you can find out when he's up for re-election. I'm going to also put in the notes when he's up for re-election. It might be this year, it might be next year. I don't remember. But I will definitely put that in the liner notes. So if you look at the notes for this episode, you will see links, as I do this every day. You will see links to some of the things that I discuss or mention or feature in the episode. And you'll be able to do some more research and get involved. Again, this takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It's really not a lot of time. 5 to 10 minutes max. It's a small amount of your time, no matter what your day is like. Now, if your day is really a day that you've got all these things to do, which most of you do, right? And you don't have the time, please, at some other point in your week, find 5 or 10 minutes, please. It will make you feel a little bit better that you are reaching out and that you are helping somebody. And it will make that person feel better. If you can just educate somebody, whether it's on your social media account, whether it's with someone in your family, whether it's in a Zoom chat. This is what I mean. We can do this. We have these tools that people like Rosa Parks never had. Rosa Parks didn't have Twitter. Rosa Parks didn't have Instagram. Rosa Parks didn't have any of those things. She did this alone. She said, I am not moving from here. On that bus in Montgomery. in the 1950s. She didn't move, and she didn't put it on social media. There was none to put it on. And I'm telling you, you had whole movements begin in the 1950s without social media. We have no excuse in 2021. Send that message of love and support to Tamika Palmer today. If you have enough people within a system that want to change it and that will change it, and want to do so without George Floyd being executed, without this happening to anyone else, without Breonna Taylor being executed. If you have people in these systems, in the city level, on the local level, and in any level of government, who want to do this proactively without having to wait until the police execute a black person before wanting the changes, if you have people in a system who want to make those changes proactively, you're going to have a different system. You're going to more likely have a system, even in its present form, that will be a system that will send a message from the giddy up that black lives really do matter. Not just in words, not just on t-shirts, but really in reality. And actually with actual laws that proactively protect black lives and that reflect the humanity of black life. And so if a black life is taken, no matter who it's taken by, in this case police, those police will be brought to account and will be serving real prison time and will be indicted before they do. Because the truth is, if a black person kills another black person, they get the lengthy sentence. So they should. But if a white person kills a black person, or if a white cop, or if any police officer kills a black person, they don't get a slap on the wrist even. So we need to be very clear about what a system that respects black people looks like. And right now, we are nowhere near that look. On this day, I send my deepest condolences to Tamika Palmer and the entire family of Breonna Taylor. And I send my condolences, my deepest condolences, to the family of George Floyd and to the families of anyone who have lost someone to police violence, to male violence in general, to any kind of violence or any kind of situation. My heart is with you. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of The Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.
Taylor's mother vows to fight until justice is done for her daughter.
I'll fight to the death of me for her.